Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get started. First two things, our prayer list is Clara and Gail. Clara was at the doctor's on Monday morning. Matter of fact, they had to go over Sunday night because the appointment was so early Monday morning. They opened up her incision, they cleaned the infection out, sewed it back together. Everything went real well. By the middle of the afternoon, she was back at Clinton Gardens. Matter of fact, Gail and I passed Martha and Clara just this side of Bainbridge as she was going home, which leads to the second thing that we took Gail over to her doctor's appointment on Monday with the orthopedic surgeon, and the good news is they don't need to do anything else. Her foot is, it's going to be a slow heal. They said it's on the fifth metatarsal, which is basically, if that's your foot, it's this part right here all the way back there where it broke, and they said that takes a long time to heal, but because it didn't break all the way through, she doesn't have to have surgery. She didn't have to have a cast. They left the boot on her that she was wearing, told her to still use the knee scooter if she's going very far, but if she's just kind of getting up out of the chair and turning around, or to do those kind of things, as long as she's got the boot on, she can do it. She can also take it off to take a bath and go to bed and those sort of things. So actually, unless they'd have told us it was miraculously healed, it couldn't have turned out any better. So we're really thankful and blessed because of that. So keep praying for RJ. That's Bill and Tawny's grandson that broke his collarbone in 3 places and had some extensive surgery, put that all back together, and I think he was 20. Remember all them, and then just everything else that's going on. It's just one of those, we can see that the world is more broken every time we look. So we really need God involved in all these things. So let's take a moment and pray. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day you've given to us, and for the opportunity to be together, Lord, and for the answered prayers. That Claire's surgery went well. Gail's her results went well, Lord, and we just thank you for the answered prayers in these things, and just ask that you continue to be with RJ, and Lord, just touch them all, and be with our nation and our nation's leaders. Lord, be with our church as we try to be the people you have called us to be, and be with us tonight as we gather together. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name, amen. Now, you can see that it's kind of still looks like summertime out here, and I'm glad to be able to still be outside, and I'm going to try to be outside, kind of like I did last year, till I can't stand the cold, or it gets too dark, or that's usually what catches up with us, when we move those clocks, and so we'll try to be out here, and if for some reason we can't, I'll either be in the house or be at the church or whatever. But you can tell it's still summer. A couple of things for you to think about. Do you know what's Irish? Comes out in the summer, goes back in during the winter. Patio furniture. So you can think about that one for a minute. And do you know how pride is like summer? Both come before the fall. And or do you know how to tell the difference between spring rolls and summer rolls? It's all in the seasoning. So just a couple of corny jokes for you, or there's the old one about the Canadian too, and somebody asked him, said, how do you like summer? He said, it's my favorite day of the year. And sometimes it even seems like that around here, that summer doesn't last very long, or just as the day that goes by. What I don't understand, and it's what I kind of got thinking about today, did you know summer's over? Well, I know what the calendar says. Summer's not over till September the 22nd. That's when fall begins. But you don't know how many times I've heard on the radio that, and you hear it every year, Memorial Day is the official start of summer, and that Labor Day is the official end of summer. And some people really take that serious. I mean, just the lake's right back there, and there was a boat running around out there a while ago, but Labor Day that weekend, it is packed. Not quite like 4th of July weekend if it's fireworks time, but it's packed. And people go till almost dark, especially on Monday. Now, Labor Day this year, it was kind of cool, and it was a little bit cloudy. It was in the low 80s, and there's still a lot of people out there. And but the weekend after Labor Day, this last weekend, and one of those days wasn't all that great, but man, I'm telling you, it's like somebody flips the big switch and says, okay, summer's over. We can't go to the lake anymore. We can't go out to picnics anymore. There's a lot of other things that happen like that. And it's just because that's the way people get to thinking. And they get that ingrained in them because you hear it on the radio and people talk about it. And there's this old thing. I remember when I was a kid, and my mom and some of her friends talking about, that after Labor Day, you're not allowed to wear white. You can't wear your white shoes. You can't wear your white dress. You can't wear that white belt. That starts at, I'm not sure if it's supposed to start at Easter or if it started at Memorial Day or any of those sort of things. Of course, back when we were kids, Memorial Day wasn't the last Monday in May. It was actually a designated day. And I think it was like the 24th, 25th. I don't remember for sure. But it was a day. It didn't matter. It's kind of like Veterans Day or 4th of July. Whatever day it happened on, that was the day that it was. And I really think that when they take these days and make them into 3-day weekends, that it loses the importance. People just see it as another vacation day, which is sad. But, one of the things about it is that it's kind of easy to tell if you were out in the sun today that summer's not over. Now, a couple days ago, Monday, when the high only got to be about 65 degrees, it felt like summer was over. But this weekend, it's supposed to be in the 90s again. And, summer's just gonna keep continuing until it's that time of year. And, that kind of gets us back to the Bible. There's a couple of different things in the Bible. First one's in Genesis. There's several different things in the Bible, but about seasons. The first one's in Genesis, and which God says that God put the sun, the moon, and the stars there to tell the seasons. And that's how we tell a lot of them, and some people depend on the moon to decide what season it is and all those sort of things. But it's more about the sun. And the sun changes the seasons and the way that the earthwork that God made. The other part in there is Ecclesiastes 3. To everything there is a season, turn. Although those of you that were teenagers in the 60s or so, you remember the old bird song, to every day, turn, which was from Ecclesiastes. And, I'm thankful that God doesn't take his directions from the radio, that it can still be summer. One of the things that I enjoy, summer is kind of my favorite season, but I don't mind the heat. I don't mind sweating. When I do sweat, it drips off of my nose, my ears, my elbows, my wrists, my fingers. I'll be soaking wet from top to bottom. Even my socks and my boots will get wet. I sweat. And I think maybe because of that, it doesn't bother me too much. I just got to keep pouring down fluids. But I like summer, and I like everything about it. But I also like the other seasons. I like fall and the changing of the seasons, the colors of the leaves, and just that kind of smell in the air on a good sunny autumn day. There's a difference about it. And winter, I'm another one that snow doesn't really bother me. As a matter of fact, I kind of enjoy getting out on my tractor here in the subdivision and plowing the snow for everybody. And I do it for just the fun of it. I just like being on my tractor and doing that kind of stuff. And it kind of started off, I did ours, and then I did lady next door to us. She's a single lady, about 10 or so years older than I am. A couple of the other seniors in the subdivision, and they got to the point now I just do them all. And sometimes it's just something that I enjoy doing. And then in the spring, how can you not like the spring when the buds come out and the leaves begin to get the trees begin to get their leaves, and the dogwood flowers and the daffodils and all those things that come up, and the mushrooms. Although we haven't had very many mushrooms here in the last couple of years. One year we had so many that we covered our kitchen table 3 different times. And some of you that have been in my office, you can see the picture of my one grandson holding a mushroom like this. It's this high for him. It's almost as big as his head, and it was bigger than a soft drink bottle. But of all that, I like summer the best. So we like playing in the water, swimming. We've always kind of been a water person from the time I was a little kid, and all the way up through. One of my favorite things was always swimming. And so, I always like to see summer kind of last as long as it should. And for all you people that like to say, well, it's been so hot, I'll be so glad when summer's over. You know what you're going to be saying this winter? It is so cold, I just can't hardly stand it outside. And you'll be wishing it was summer again, because summer is a time that, the old song, summertime when living is easy. Sometimes it's not always that easy, depending on how warm it is and all those kind of things. But God made the seasons, and how they change and what they change and how they do that is just fascinating to me. And one of the things that I know is that because of the way that the sun heats the earth from the rays, that the seasons at times lag a little bit from when the calendar says it is. And there's times that it can be really warm during Covered Bridge Festival. It can be really cold during Covered Bridge Festival. There's times that even no longer than I've been around with the church, that parking cars, there's been a couple of times it was cold. And there was a couple of times there was one time that I was out there in a t-shirt and was sweating like I usually do. So, but I think it's one of those things that just makes God's creation interesting, to know that we couldn't have figured it out. It's one of those things that, everybody talks about it, that weathermen, that's being a weather person. There are men and women both, but being a weather forecaster is one of the few jobs that you can be wrong more times than you're right and still keep your job. Because the fact of the matter is, nobody else can do it any better. And so, it's one of those things that we can't figure out how God makes it all work, all of how tied together everything is. And even to the point of, when we're talking about all the trees. I'm sitting here, I was looking right before we got started, I got a dogwood tree right over there, and it's just starting to turn. The leaves are going from bright green to dark green, just starting to get a hint of red in them. And right over there, one of the sassafrasas has got a few reds in it. When I was looking up a while ago, there's a few yellow leaves in the poplars, but I think they're left over from the dry spell, because we lost as we generally do when it gets hot and dry in August or so, the poplars lose leaves to kind of conserve the moisture and things. But looking around at the rest, the cherry trees are still hanging in there, and the maple trees haven't started turning yet, and all those things. They take their signals from the sun, and just how God laid that all together, that the tree knows when to start pulling back the chlorophyll. And it has to do, with the amount of sunlight, the changes in the temperatures, all those kind of things together. And then the same thing in the spring, especially with the maple trees. Temperature gets to a certain amount of sunlight, and the maple, the sugar water starts to run. That makes the maple syrup and all those sort of things. So, just that whole thing about it, and how God put it all together, and the fact that we have deciduous trees around here, the ones that lose their leaves. And then you go to other parts of the area, like when we go out west, you get up in the mountains, everything's evergreen trees, and there are hardly any deciduous trees. And even the deciduous trees that they have, like the aspens and a few of those. They're cottonwoods. Their cottonwoods aren't these big, huge trees like we have around here. They're about the size of a little bit bigger than a good sized dogwood, and they don't get that big, and so they don't have that out there. And just to be able to be in a part of the world in which we can watch the seasons change, and we can be reminded of God's majesty and glory, and how He knit everything together to work the way that it does. And pretty soon we're going to be, all of us are going to be worrying about all the leaves on the yard, and either getting them raked up or getting them mulched up or blowing them off into the ravines, whatever it is you happen to do. But even all that, it's one of those things that in the summer, or one of the things I think about is in the summer, I'm also a person that I like to drive around with my windows down in my vehicle. Usually, unless it's just 95 degrees outside and you can't breathe, or it gets so cold I can't stand it anymore, I like to have the windows down and to go through, be driving through an area in the spring and hear that or smell that first cut lawn. Or, I was thinking about this not too long ago. For some reason, I don't know why this came up, but used to, when you were traveling along, you always smelled or at least down when I grew up down around Vincennes, the old wild onions that were growing in everybody's yard. I don't know if it's because people spray their yards or what, but you don't hardly see them anywhere, at least around this area. But that was always kind of the first smell of the spring, when you smelled the wild onions going. And it's kind of in the fall when you smell those leaves, and you can just smell the difference in the air and know that things are going to change. But just as sure as they change, it's not going to be that long that all these leaves are going to be yellow. That one over there, that's more the sun shining on it than the leaves turning yellow yet. But pretty soon there'll be yellow ones, red ones, black ones. The wild cherries get kind of a weird looking color, black. The poplars are always yellow. It's going to be a lot of them in different colors, and just a beauty. And one of the things that the leaves always remind me, one of the things I learned as a kid, and it just kind of stuck with me, was that the colors that are in the leaves, the yellows and the reds and the browns, all those colors that are there, I'm not talking about the dead brown, but all those colors that are there are always there. They're there now just because of the photosynthesis in the trees, and the trees taking the carbon dioxide, turning it back into oxygen, using it for food for them, giving us fresh air, and all those things. We don't see it until that photosynthesis stops, and the chlorophyll is not in the leaves anymore when the tree shuts it off, and then we see the beauty. And to me, it kind of reminds me of God and God in the world. We see God's beauty. You can see, if you really stop and look at some of the trees, and you take a leaf and you examine it, and you see how it's made with all the little veins and all the different things in it. Or you go over there to a sassafras tree, and it's the only tree that has three different shapes of leaves on it. And you see those things, and it's just it's amazing to see God's glory. But then we see the true hidden beauty at the time of, some people think it's a crisis of the tree, but it's not. And I think it's kind of like life. We can see God all around us, but we truly see the beauty of God when other things begin to happen and things begin to change, and what we thought was the beauty that we were looking at becomes even more beautiful as we see what God is doing. So, when we transition from this time of summer to the time of fall, to think about that, and to think about God's beauty, this beauty that we have seen all summer. And I probably told you this. Talking about beauty, I wanted to leave you with a story. Actually, two. I had somebody, Saturday, we were over at Brian's, and there's a kid that his name is Raymond, and his family's Hispanic, and his grandparents came in, and Raymond is a first generation person here, but with where they grew up and everything, he was talking about all the green in the trees and the green in the grass, and just how magnificent the green is. But the bigger story, and I've probably told you this before because I tell it a lot. DJ had a kid that he got to be really good friends with when he had to go to Las Vegas during his 4th year of college. Architects had to do 5 years. His 4th year of college, the spring semester, they had to do an internship. So he got invited to go to Las Vegas, and he worked out there for 6 months, which January to July. The first half of that was pretty good. The last half got pretty warm. Well, he met this kid out there named Ibrahim, and Ibrahim Kako, and he was from Syria. And then when DJ went back out, when he graduated, they offered him a scholarships and things to come back out to UNLV to do his grad work out there, which he did for 2 years. And he and Kako were roommates, and they got to be so close that Kako was in DJ's wedding. Brian was the best man. One of DJ's friends he grew up with since childhood was next, and Kako and somebody else. But anyway, Kako was born in Syria. He was in Syria till he was about 12 years old. Then his family moved, that's a desert area that he came from. Then they moved to Reno, Nevada. And then he graduated high school from Reno, and he goes to Las Vegas to go to college. And he was still going to college there at that time. And now at the time of DJ's wedding, he was working in Las Vegas. So he'd never been out of the desert, basically. So anyway, DJ's getting married. And he's getting married on Memorial Day weekend, on Saturday of that weekend. Well, Kako was flying into Chicago because he had an aunt in Chicago that he hadn't seen in a long time. So he's going to fly in there, see her, and then drive down from Chicago to Clinton. We were having the rehearsal was over at the wedding was at St. Mary's, but we had the I started to say the funeral dinner now. The rehearsal dinner, there is what it's called, the rehearsal dinner at Clinton. And we knew he wasn't going to make it down time for the rehearsal, so he came right straight to the dinner. But we told him on the way down, I gave him directions, and I told him, DJ had told him, said, man, that drive from Chicago is about as boring as it gets, coming down and being on 41 and 63. This kid bust in the door. I don't mean walks in, I mean he bust in the door. He's grinning from ear to ear. And it wasn't because he was glad to see us. He was saying, green, green, everywhere I look is green. This is the most beautiful part of the world that there is. Everywhere I look, if I looked out there in the field, it was green. If I looked at the trees, they were green. The grass was green. Everything was green. Everywhere I looked at was green. It was so beautiful. And that's all he talked about for 2 days. And it just kind of makes us forget how beautiful summer is around here. Spring, summer, early fall, and how beautiful the green is. God put it there. God made it special. We talked about all the different leaves. Not only do they turn a different color in the fall, they're all shaped different. They all have a different purpose. They're on a different kind of tree, and all those kind of things. God did all of that. God shaped this world the way that it is. And God put it here for us. And it's one of the things that Genesis tells us, that God created the world, all the animals, everything in it, put time into effect, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything, and then put us in the middle of it for us to enjoy it. God made this world for us. But sometimes we live in it so much we take it for granted, and we forget about the beauty that is all around us. Never cease to see the beauty and the grace of God all around us, whether it be the leaves, the grass, anything else that may be green. And when you go to other parts of the country, don't fail to see the beauty that's there. When we went to the desert and that area that Kako was from, we were fascinated by how beautiful it was. But that's a talk for another time. But see the beauty in God all around us. Never get to the point that you don't see it or don't enjoy the blessings of this earth that God put us here, and the beauty of living in Indiana and Park County and in the area in which we live. So, hope you have a blessed evening. Hope you have a blessed life. Hope you are a blessing to others. And I'm using that hope in the way, the biblical hope, not as a wish, but in a confidence that you will be blessed, that you will bless others, and that you will come to see the beauty of God all around you. So I catch up with you on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, or next Wednesday, same time, same station. See y'all then.